Emperor Jiajing. In 1542, 16 women tried to strangle the Emperor of China in his sleep, but they failed, and what he did next would haunt the palace for decades. Zhu Haocheng became the Jiajing Emperor at 13 years old. He inherited a crumbling dynasty, fought brutal political battles, and survived an assassination attempt that left him unconscious for 8 hours. But instead of emerging stronger, he became obsessed with something else entirely: living forever. After the assassination attempt, Jiajing abandoned the Forbidden City. He moved to the West Park, a complex of palaces and Taoist temples he designed to resemble the mythical land of immortals. He stopped holding court. He stopped meeting officials. He surrounded himself with Taoist priests who promised him eternal life. And then the experiments began. Jiajing believed that the essence of young women could extend his life, so he collected them. According to historical records, he and his chief Taoist advisor gathered 960 teenage girls and kept them on a strict diet. The purpose? To harvest their menstrual blood for his elixirs. The girls were fed specific foods and herbs to purify their blood. Then it was collected and mixed with other ingredients, such as arsenic, lead, and mercury, to create potions the emperor drank daily. He called them elixirs of immortality. But the ingredients were poison. The Taoist priests also demanded tens of kilograms of gold dust for their prayers. Temples were built. Rare minerals were gathered from across the empire. The entire imperial court was restructured around one man's desperate attempt to escape death. Officials who criticized him were tortured or executed. Those who survived learned to stay silent or to profit from his madness. Corruption spread. The borders weakened. Mongol raiders besieged Beijing. Pirates terrorized the coast. The dynasty crumbled while the emperor drank mercury in his private paradise. In 1567, after 45 years on the throne, Jiajing died. He was 59 years old. The cause was the cumulative effects of the very elixirs he believed would save him. Insomnia, mood swings, organ failure. The poison had been building in his body for decades. He spent his final years surrounded by gold, temples, and teenage girls, and died alone in a palace he built to become a god. The elixir of immortality killed him, just like it killed the first emperor 2,000 years before. Gilgamesh. 4,000 years ago, a king found the secret to eternal life. He held it in his hands, and then he lost it while he slept. The Epic of Gilgamesh is the oldest story ever written, carved into clay tablets in ancient Mesopotamia around 2100 BCE. It predates Homer by over 1,000 years, and at its heart is humanity's first recorded obsession, the fear of death. Gilgamesh was the king of Uruk, 2/3 god and 1/3 man. He was stronger than any mortal, wiser than any ruler, and more arrogant than both. He oppressed his people so brutally that the gods created Enkidu, a wild man raised among animals, to challenge him. They fought, they became brothers, and together they killed monsters, slayed the bull of heaven, and insulted the goddess Ishtar herself. The gods punished them by taking Enkidu's life. Gilgamesh watched his closest friend die slowly, painfully, over 12 days. And in that moment, the most powerful king in the world realized something terrifying. He would die too. So he did what humans have done ever since. He went looking for a way out. Gilgamesh traveled to the ends of the earth, through the land of night, across the waters of death, to find Utnapishtim, the only mortal ever granted immortality by the gods. When he finally arrived, Utnapishtim gave him a test. Stay awake for 6 days and 7 nights. Gilgamesh fell asleep immediately. He couldn't even conquer exhaustion. How could he conquer death? But Utnapishtim's wife took pity on him. She revealed a secret. At the bottom of the sea grew a thorny plant that could restore youth to anyone who ate it. Gilgamesh tied stones to his feet, dove into the depths, and found the plant. He held immortality in his bleeding hand. On his journey home, he stopped to bathe in a cool pool and left the plant on a rock. But a serpent smelled its sweetness, slithered close, and swallowed it whole. The snake shed its skin and disappeared, young again. Gilgamesh wept. He returned to Uruk empty-handed. But standing before the great walls he had built, he understood something. The only immortality available to mortals is the work we leave behind. 4,000 years later, we're still telling his story. He got his wish after all. Countess Bathory. She believed the blood of virgins would keep her young forever. By the time they stopped her, over 600 girls were dead. Elizabeth Bathory was born in 1560 into one of the most powerful families in Hungary. Her uncle was the king of Poland. She was educated, wealthy, and by all accounts, beautiful. At 15, she married Count Ferenc Nedesty, a celebrated warrior who spent most of their marriage on the battlefield. He left her in charge of vast estates, thousands of servants, and absolute power over the peasants who lived on her land. In 16th century Hungary, nobles had the legal right to punish their serfs however they saw fit. Bathory took that right to its extreme. According to testimony from over 300 witnesses, the Countess developed an obsession with torturing young women. Servants were beaten with cudgels, burned with hot irons, stabbed with needles, and forced to stand naked in freezing water until they froze to death. She reportedly bit chunks of flesh from their bodies. She shoved knives under their fingernails. When one girl couldn't sew properly, Bathory stabbed a needle into her arm and carved her way up to the shoulder. But the torture wasn't just cruelty, it was vanity. Legend says that one day, a servant girl's blood splashed onto Bathory's skin, and the Countess noticed it looked younger, whiter, more radiant. From that moment, she became convinced that bathing in virgin blood would preserve her beauty forever. She started with peasant girls. No one asked questions when poor daughters disappeared. But eventually, she grew bolder. She opened a finishing school for noble daughters, promising them education and social advancement. But many never came home. When aristocratic families began demanding answers, King Matthias II ordered an investigation. On December 30th, 1610, authorities raided her castle and found dead bodies, dying girls, and evidence of systematic torture spanning 2 decades. Her accomplices were executed, burned alive after having their fingers torn off. But Bathory was nobility. She was never formally tried. Instead, she was bricked into a room in her own castle with only a small opening for food. She died 4 years later, at age 54, still imprisoned in the walls of her home. The official count is at least 80 victims, though the rumored count is over 650. Whether the bloodbaths were real or legend, one thing is certain. She believed they would make her immortal. But they made her a monster instead. Alexander Bogdanov. He believed blood transfusions would make him immortal. He gave himself 11 of them, but the 12th one killed him. Alexander Bogdanov was a man who wanted to be everything, and almost succeeded. A Russian physician, revolutionary, science fiction writer, poet, and one of the original Bolsheviks, he helped found the Soviet Union alongside Lenin. He wrote novels about utopian societies on Mars. He pioneered ideas that would later become systems theory and cybernetics. But his true obsession was cheating death. In the 1920s, Bogdanov became fascinated with blood transfusions. He believed that exchanging blood between humans could transfer vitality from the young to the old. That if you pumped enough young blood into an aging body, you could reverse time itself. He called it physiological collectivism. In his vision, Soviet citizens would share blood the way they shared labor, creating a collective organism that would never die. So he experimented on the only subject he fully trusted, himself. Over several years, Bogdanov transfused blood from 11 different students into his own veins. After each procedure, he reported improvements. His eyesight got better. His balding stopped. His energy increased. Friends told him he looked 10 years younger. Encouraged by the results, Bogdanov founded the Institute for Hematology and Blood Transfusions in Moscow in 1926, the world's first institution dedicated to blood science. He was celebrated. He was confident. He was certain he had discovered the secret. Then came the 12th transfusion. In April 1928, Bogdanov exchanged blood with a young student. What he didn't know, what he couldn't test for, was that the student was infected with both malaria and tuberculosis. The student, injected with Bogdanov's healthy blood, made a full recovery. But Bogdanov died 2 weeks later. He was 54 years old. The man who wanted to live forever was killed by the very method he believed would save him. His institute survived, though. It was renamed in his honor and continued operating for decades, advancing the science of blood transfusion that Bogdanov himself never lived to see perfected. He wrote a science fiction story once about a man who achieves immortality and finds it unbearable. The character kills himself because eternal life becomes meaningless repetition. But Bogdanov never got the chance to find out if he was right. Brian Johnson. Right now, a 48-year-old tech millionaire is spending $2 million a year trying to become immortal. He takes 111 pills every day. He goes to bed at 8:30 p.m. He's injected himself with his teenage son's blood plasma, and he believes death will become optional by 2039. His name is Brian Johnson. In 2013, Johnson sold his payment company Braintree to PayPal for $800 million. He walked away with over $300 million. Most people would have retired, but Johnson decided to declare war on death itself. He calls his experiment Project Blueprint. The premise is simple. What if you handed control of your entire body to an algorithm? Every decision, what to eat, when to sleep, determined not by human desire, but by data. Johnson's team of 30 doctors monitors everything: his blood, his organs, his body fat, his stool samples, even his nighttime erections. He wears a device on his penis while he sleeps to track them. His daily routine is relentless. He wakes at 4:30 a.m., exercises for an hour, takes 111 supplements, eats a vegan diet of blended vegetables that looks like sea lion meat, finishes eating by 11 a.m., and goes to bed at 8:30 p.m. every single day. No exceptions. No pizza. No late nights. No birthday cake. The results? His fitness levels rank in the top 1.5% of 18-year-olds. After 6 years of experiments, he says his biological age hasn't advanced a single day. But here's the thing. Johnson is doing everything at once. Over 100 pills, dozens of therapies, experimental treatments, all combined. No one knows how they interact. No one can prove what's actually working. What he's doing hasn't proven to be safe, warns one aging researcher. Even if it works for him, how do you know it works for you? You won't know if he's right until he's either immortal or dead.